So today's predator is going to be Cody Green. He is one of the most known and fan favorite type predators in this series. And I think it's, well, mainly because he has so many quotes and because he acts almost kind of strangely when confronted by Chris Hansen, among other things. But yeah, let's take a look at it.
We know before Cody Green even gets there that he could be trouble. He's got a history with police. He was on probation for drunk driving.
I believe that drunk driving thing is actually the one accident where he developed that traumatic brain injury, and I will go a little bit on that later, as it apparently was used legally to try and justify him.
He tells me in our discussion that he got into trouble again for, I guess, leaving the scene of an accident. And here he is, about to get in trouble yet another time.
He's not coming for the handcuffs, he's coming for the other thing.
He wants to meet Chris Hansen.
Cody Green shows up in this fairly new, expensive, Cadillac SUV.
Maddie.
Hey, I'm up here. Yeah, I just gotta grab this.
So I consider myself a fashion enthusiast, and I just wanted to comment a little bit on his outfit choice for this one event, and I think it's very interesting for his style, which admittedly is pretty outdated. I think it's actually pretty, I wouldn't say good, but it's kind of an understandable outfit choice, I would say, in the sense that he has this white and denim, like it's a pretty coordinated outfit, the white shoes with the white top and the white hat, and it's pretty simple as an outfit, I would say, maybe a bit too simple, especially because there's not, the print on the shirt isn't anything flashy or anything, but it's a pretty acceptable outfit, I think, for the time. Of course, it looks ridiculous now, but this, from what I know and from what I remember, at this time, this was very much considered trendy, at least among certain groups of people.
In the washer, but I made some sweet tea. Come on in.
He comes in, he's got his cap on, and he's ready to meet his dream date.
Yeah, I made some tea and it's on the table. Did you bring me my chocolate?
So, some people have pointed out that it's kind of strange that he seems to immediately go towards her without saying anything, just in this really creepy, strange way. I think it could be as well the way it's edited, because sometimes things are edited to portray a certain narrative and all these things. But I do think it's very strange, assuming that this is portraying accurately what he was doing and what was happening. I do think it's very strange, and it's very likely that maybe he either wanted to make sure that there was no one behind the decoy, that would make it very obvious to him that this is a setup, and he wanted to make sure that she was alone, or maybe he was actually, as some people think, he was trying to physically force her into something from the beginning, which I think is a pretty scary possibility, because if you look at the chat log, and I will go on that a little bit later, but if you look at the chat log, it's really affectionate, he's obviously giving her a bunch of compliments and things like that in order to, I would say, to gain her trust. And it would be very strange and very creepy of him to just suddenly be completely cold when he suddenly sees her in person.
Hey! Why don't you just step right over there, please? Should have a seat right in that chair. Please, sit down.
I'm in agreement with this, so I swear to you.
I need you to sit down, and you can tell me all about it, I promise.
Please, sir, I really drove this far for no reason.
One of the biggest controversies, I guess, in the teacup fandom is about this phrase by him, and whether he means I drove this far for no reason, as if to tell him that he wasn't gonna try anything, or as if to tell him in a sort of question tone, like almost complaining to him that he was making him waste his time. And I don't know, I mean, I don't think that he was necessarily thinking that much, like that intensely before he said anything. in this interview. Like he's very candid, as you'll see later on in this one. I think that maybe he really didn't mean anything, or maybe he was thinking about something specific in his head and he didn't know how to word it, or the words just didn't work in his mind. What makes it odd is that the addition of the word really, as in I really drove this far for no reason, kind of makes it seem sarcastic or sound sarcastic. So that's probably what makes people think that he's somehow trying to tell Chris Hansen, like, you're wasting my time or you're being inconvenient or whatever. But I don't really think so. I think he's just... I'm not sure, but I mean, I haven't really put much thought into this phrase in particular, but I think that he's probably just really bad at wording things.
You drove this far for no reason.
I swear to you, I asked her, and I swear to you, I asked her this.
You asked who?
I asked Maddie.
Take your time. I'm going to let you explain the whole thing.
I said, if this is really not what you're looking for, I really want you to tell me that. Because I will come over and I swear I will just be with you and I will not touch you, anything like that. Is what I said, and I can prove that to you. I will show it to you.
So clearly he's not incapable of lying, because he is lying right now. He's saying, I wasn't the one talking about sex, she was the one. He's kind of trying to paint this picture like she was the one who started to talk about sex, and he just kind of went along with it, but a couple of times had to clarify that he wasn't really up for it or whatever. And of course, from the context, what I mean by context is the fact that she's obviously a minor, so there wouldn't have been any convincing in the first place. Like, you just don't do it and that's it. And also the fact that, given the chat log, that's obviously not the case. He is the one who kept bringing it up, and of course he was very much along with it whenever the character, the decoy, did respond about it or did talk about it.
You'll show me how.
Please, I swear, sir, I'm a desperate person. I need a girl in my life, and if she really wanted to be my friend, that would be all I needed from her. I've never hurt anyone. I've never done anything. I would not have hurt her.
Now, what did you bring with you?
Chocolate, like she asked me.
He's most likely there to get food for the decoy. I think she said that was one thing he was supposed to do.
And
white chocolate.
Yes, sir. That's what I told her I was bringing.
What about condoms?
Yes, sir. I have them also, but that was not my intention. I swear to you, sir.
What were you going to use the condoms for?
She told me to bring them also.
So you did everything just because she told you?
Yes, sir. I swear to you, that is the reason for it.
So a lot of these guys often come into sing house or whatever being like, oh, she told me to come in, she told me it was okay. Pretty much all of the predators I have noticed, pretty much all of them use this argument to some degree at some point or another, whether in the interview or with the confrontation with Chris or the police interview. And it's kind of baffling to me, the fact that they pretend that this is a real argument to be made. Well, this minor, this 13-year-old or 12-year-old or 15-year-old or whatever told me that it was okay to go into her house or whatever, or do something else that they know that it isn't okay.
Then why did you send her pictures like this?
Because she asked me to.
She asked you to send pictures?
She didn't ask me to send nude pictures, I know.
Right. So there's a big difference between sending a photograph of yourself and sending pictures of your genitals. It's not like the decoys are asking to be sent these pictures. I mean, these guys offered right up. Did you say you are ready to have my fang in your mouth?
Yes, sir.
What do you mean by that?
Are you ready to have my in your mouth? Pretty much what I meant. Because she was going with it. She was.
Oh, so she wanted it.
That's what it seemed like to me.
So I think I'll take this moment to address the whole thing about his brain injury. So Dave's Lemonade here on YouTube, he made an analysis of him. He mentions that the type of brain injury that he has is a subdural hematoma, which is a type of brain bleed where blood leaks out of a blood vessel into the space below the outermost membrane of the brain. There are different types of subdural hematomas, some more dangerous than others, and the symptoms include a headache that doesn't go away, confusion and drowsiness, nausea and vomiting, slurred speech, changes in vision, dizziness, loss of balance, difficulty walking, weakness on one side of the body, memory loss, disorientation, personality changes, especially in older adults with chronic subdural hematoma and enlarged head in babies. So, of course, this brain injury can, to some degree, I guess, explain his candidness. I'm not sure that a brain injury would kind of make him necessarily more willing or more attracted to minors or, tweens, teenagers, or whatever than he could have been before. As some people have pointed out before, I think it might have made him more likely to, or rather less likely to be able to resist his impulses. I guess that could potentially start this discussion on whether he should be punished or tried for something that you can't technically control, but medically it's not very easy to tell whether or not someone can fully control their own impulses or not. I think that his lawyer could have easily argued that he couldn't control it at all, but I think it's likely that, to some degree he can't control his impulses because of the brain injury, and to some other degree maybe he can, and he's exaggerating his symptoms to get out of legal trouble. And also something that's important to mention is that, especially on a younger person like him, a brain injury is something that does tend to get better over time, and your symptoms tend to lessen over time. I think it's likely that if he did use that in court, it's probably just kind of grasping at straws, and he probably was not necessarily asymptomatic by that point. It's very likely that he was having much milder symptoms that he did initially by the time that this segment happened.
She says, "You don't mind I'm a virgin?" You say, "If you don't mind me taking it from you, I actually would love it and never have been with a virgin."
I know it's not respectful, but I was just asking her if she wanted to do that online.
I love how they often act as if the problem or their mistake is something else, like, for example, the way he says, "Oh, I know it's not respectful," or some other predators will say, "Oh, it's not very smart." They soften it a little bit by pretending that their mistake was just talking to, unknown people, strangers on the internet, not the fact that they were knowingly speaking to minors about sex. Or, for example, here Cody is basically pretending that the problem, his fault, was just him being kind of raunchy on the internet. It wouldn't be the issue of anyone if it was just kind of raunchy, or, as he says, he's disrespectful, as he puts it. I think it's some sort of maybe mental strategy, if not to convince others that what they did is not that severe. At least it seems to be maybe a strategy to convince themselves that what they did wasn't as wrong, to shield themselves from the real fault that they have in the whole thing.
This is not even like I was just looking for girls that were this young and I was looking to get in trouble and everything like this, because I was telling her this. I was like, this is illegal on phone conversations, online and stuff like that. And I was like, you swear to me, you're not gonna get me in trouble, and I swear I will never disrespect you, is what I was pretty much meaning to.
So you're the victim here?
No, sir, I'm not the victim. I came here for reasons like that, but if she really didn't want it, sir, I swear to you, I would have never tried it.
But if she was open to the idea,
Yes.
you would have had sex with a 13-year-old girl?
Probably, yeah.
Why? Because it's so alluring to have sex with a 13-year-old girl?
It's just something that you'll probably never have again. That would be probably the cleanest, best pleasure, I would say.
The cleanest, best pleasure,
Yes, sir.
is to have sex with a 13-year-old girl.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so clearly he does specifically want to have a virgin. So I'm not going to be saying anything that people don't already know, but obviously the thing with a lot of these predators is that they want people, or rather, minors, teens, children, whatever, that of course are, because of their age, are less experienced, less mature, they know less about relationships. I think maybe in the case of having sex, at least, someone who is very inexperienced will notice patterns of things like abusive or manipulation, and also would demand less when it comes to sex, or maybe would be a little too shy to say if they don't want something, or if something hurts or they want something to stop or what have you. Things like that are things that could be easily influenced by your age and your understanding or misunderstanding of how something like a relationship and specifically having sex should work. Usually people this young, like 13 to 15, 16, just haven't really learned what their boundaries are and how to enforce those boundaries, whether we're talking about romantic relationships or sex specifically. A lot of teenagers, especially with the fucking state of sex education even nowadays, they just don't really understand the whole consent thing, and I think that's one of those things that these guys could easily take advantage of when it comes to looking for teenagers specifically. And when I was a teenager and I was on the internet speaking to older men, and they would ask me for specific pictures or what have you, and I would often pretty much always hesitate and try to convince them that it wasn't really something that I wanted to do or that I was going to do, but sometimes I did provide them because I felt that they would get bored of me and they would stop talking to me eventually and move on to someone else, because I think maybe a part of me almost knew that they only liked me because I was impressionable and young and because of my age, not because they liked my personality or anything like that. I mean, I really found guys that I had things in common with in the first place. And of course, I kind of knew in a way, but the thing is that I felt like they were kind of at the moment in these moments of crisis in my life where I did this. Those were moments where I felt like I had really no one, like those guys were the only people who were really talking to me and that cared about me at all. And that's why I found it so easy, to just do things that I knew weren't very wise, but I wasn't really mature enough to understand how unwise they were and exactly why those guys were not people who loved me, they were people who were really taking advantage of my age at the time.
You can't meet any girls who are 20 years old?
No, sir, I really can't.
You got that nice truck out there?
Yes, sir.
Got the clothes thing going on?
That's material, sir. Girls look deeper for what they want in guys.
I also find this part really telling, and I like it a lot because he's self-reflective and self-aware enough to realize that he's not, even though I do think he has some degree of personality going on, he's not maybe interesting enough or deep enough, I guess, to impress girls or women his own age. He's essentially admitting, yeah, they're selling tamales outside, right? He's essentially admitting that, he is not very impressive to women his age, and that women or girls rather who are much younger are much more easily impressed, and something as simple as having a car is already a big deal for a girl who's, in her teens.
Well, there's something you got to know. I'm Chris Hansen with Dateline NBC.
Yes, sir.
Have you seen one of our computer predator shows before?
No, sir.
This is one of them. We're doing stories on adults who try to meet teens on the internet for sex. If there's anything else you want to tell us, we'd like to hear it. If not, you're obviously free to walk out that door.
Thanks for letting me wish my best.
Free! Put your hands up! Hands up! Down on the ground! 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 Down! Spread out! Legs behind! All the way! All the way! All the way! All the way! There you go! All the way!
This is the bad guy right here. Put your leg.
Based upon the items found in his SUV, it looked like Cody Green was planning to spend the night. I mean, he had spare clothes, condoms, everything was there.
And he was very hesitant about the condoms as well. I want to show you, let me see if I can share my screen. I want to show you on the chat log, he says actually that, here as you can see, he says, well, the decoy asks, and you bring protection. And he says, that won't be a problem, I do have condoms. And she's like, oh, you won't, but he says you won't be able to have a baby, therefore, to get pregnant. And he says you are too young. And she said, the decoy says she's 13, right? So, most 13-year-olds have had their period at this point. They have started their menstruation. And for some reason he says and thinks, apparently seems to honestly believe that she is too young to get pregnant. 13 is too young, you can possibly get pregnant at 13. And for some reason, as you can see here, he assumes that she hasn't had her period yet, that she hasn't had it. And she says, no, yes, I have. And he says, oh, okay, then I wouldn't want to either. Which I guess means, well, I guess I will bring the condoms then. Of course, I'm not sure, maybe he was reluctant in case this was a sting. He went, I won't want to bring condoms to a sting, because obviously that would look worse legally, right? But at the same time, it's not very smart, because if you do in some way manage to get, if you get a 13-year-old pregnant when you're an adult, the evidence is right there, and you are very much definitely going to prison then. It's just not, even leaving all the ethics aside, it's just not smart. And he honestly looks like a little bit of a moron there. There's several points throughout the chat log that are quite an issue. As I have mentioned before, one of the main reasons or ways in which you kind of stay on the conversation as a hypothetical real teen. I think one of the main reasons, at least in my case, why I stayed on is because you get asked about your life as if the adult cares about your life, and you get told compliments, things that you don't necessarily hear that often. More than once he actually says something like, I love you. They say each other like, oh, I love you, or something like that. He does say, as you can see, he does say love you. This decoy says you too, as in I guess love you too, I will still love you. He says I love you, Maddie, love you, I love you, love about you, love you. It's so much. It's just insane. I would, at this age, well, obviously that's a decoy, but if I was a real 13-year-old, I would have fallen for it. I fell for it as a 15 to 16-year-old, so, and before that as well. So I can tell you for a fact that if an adult would tell me that, and after quite a lot of talking, and after, I guess, quote unquote, knowing each other, I probably would believe them and be like, no, yeah, we do love each other, we're like online boyfriend and girlfriend or what have you, which is very stupid, of course. But what do you want me to say? Let me look up some words, because I don't remember him ever implying that it could be fake or that she might be lying. There's a point near when they're planning, when he's coming over, he does ask, so you swear you aren't lying to me also, don't you, babe? And she's like, yeah, I'm not lying, you can bring your suit and we can go swimming in my pool. And I'm not sure, I guess maybe he did consider that possibility, but it wasn't, he wasn't as worried or as insistent about it as other predators have been. Some have been very, very paranoid about it, and I guess he didn't really consider that it was much of a possibility. He seemed really convinced as well. A lot of dirty talk here as well, but whatever. And then he asks, would your mom let you be my girlfriend? And she's like, probably not. Like, what other answer could you have possibly expected? How could you have possibly expected a yes in this circumstance? Just so, he's completely out of reality at this moment in the chat. All I can say is I'm glad this guy was behind bars. He's probably not anymore. Let me look it up. He's also on offenderradar.com. He says Cody Michael Green, level sexually dangerous predator, and oh my god, yeah, here he is. Is that really him? I feel like he looks completely different. Obviously he's aged a lot since then. But yeah, offense, child molestation. Wait, wouldn't it be? Oh, maybe it was. I was gonna say maybe it would have been intent to commit, but I actually remember that after this thing happened, he actually went on to expose himself to a child again. I think she was also really young, 11 or something like that. Let me look up the, which is probably why the offense listed is child molestation and not the intention or intent. And interestingly, it actually says alias Greasy C, so C Greasy, you know. Yeah, Cody Green. Oh my god, yes. It says he was arrested for exposing himself to an 8-year-old at a pool, which is just fucking disgusting. Oh my god, really? What kind of person do you have to be? It says here, he pleaded guilty to charges of attempted child molestation, attempted sodomy, and attempted statutory rape. Sentenced to 3 years in prison, followed by 12 on probation. And he was given an additional 9 months for the exposing himself to that minor. Yeah, all I can say is that I'm glad that he was caught. I mean, that's all I can really say. An 8-year-old girl. That's just horrible. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.